Okay, so we see that Paladin hand, True Silver Champion coming to hand. That's feeling pretty good. But let's talk about the Paladin a little bit before we get into the specific matchup. Paladin was a class that when GVG first came out, and I remember watching the very first competitive match after GVG came out, which was RDU and Firebat in Deck Wars. And RDU brought a Paladin deck, which was a completely different build from what was eventually seen in the Paladin builds coming out. And Strife Crow used the Paladin in I think it was the first Kingoin tournament very effectively. Paladin was a class that just shot to the top of everyone's radar coming out of GVG straight away, but it's kind of fallen behind a little bit in the months since.
I think it's mostly because of the rogues, and because rogues do counter Paladin, and you know, it's a weird deck. It's like Paladin is amazing, but it can win it can lose against itself. Like sometimes you get those funky draws and can't do much. So Paladin is still a contender. It's a fantastic class. Here, Paladin versus Druids. I think Dart's hand is actually alright. It could have been better with Master, but then again, Gaara has the swipe.
Yeah, the swipe and the Wrath are absolutely crucial to deal with the really threatening early game of the Paladin. His Eldar Peacekeeper is going to be nice to stop the momentum of the Druid deck. These are two actually really interesting decks and quite finely balanced in terms of the way they can seesaw their strategies. They can be quite heavy late game decks or control-y decks, but they can also be decks that can just end up being super hyper aggressive and kill you within like 6 or 7 turns.
Oh man, that consecration is so powerful here.
And especially even the Shredder target.
Yeah, that was kind of like a gamble from Dart, but definitely a great play to get something from the Shredder that he can consecrate.
And we're just going to see the Harrison Jones come out here. It's not a bad 5-drop. It's not hard to see when there's going to be another opportunity for Dart to play it. I don't think there's a Blingtron in either of these decks, so it's not going to be seeing a weapon on the Druid anytime soon. Does have the Black Knight. We haven't actually seen Druid
Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, we haven't seen Druid of the Claws from Gaara yet, but we have seen the Sludge Belchers.
Yeah, so certainly there are some targets, and this matchup can be played in a couple of ways as a Paladin. You can be very aggressive if you get Master for Battle, Quartermasters, and maybe Shielded Meebots. But in like looking at Dart's hand right now, and with the cards he has, he can be also a bit control-ish and just get to end game. As long as you put pressure on the Druid and stop the important cards from being played, you should be able to get to that Tyrion eventually. Lay on Hands and advantage. There's a couple of key cards like Lay on Hands, Tyrion, True Silver is definitely one of the key cards. From the Druid needs to get Ancient of Lore to refill his hand, because without that, he would just end up without cards.
And that swipe is going to be pretty good information for Dart here. It's going to make him feel a little bit better about potential muster for battle. That Sludge Belcher. I wonder if we're going to see it this turn. We are. So that's going to be pretty much a snapped Black Knight from Dart to answer that. And that feels like a pretty big tempo swing here for Dart.
Oh yeah, that's very important. Like for Gaara, it was a lucky draw because he didn't have a good play on 6. But then the Black Knight is going to swing the game here. And interesting that Dart is playing the Black Knight. We've seen many Paladin builds before, and people stopped playing Black Knight. They were playing Piloted Sky Golem. But here, Black Knight is actually important. And another taunt from Gaara.
That's not a bad draw, certainly, after he just had his first taunt now.
Dr. GG.
Dr. GG. Dr. Balanced, as I believe Galento calls him. There's a Cairn Bloodhoof. I think it might have been Dart that we saw the Cairn Bloodhoof from earlier in the week. And D2 and I talked about how the 6-drop spot in Paladin is a pretty interesting spot. You just talked about it with the Black Knight and the Piloted Sky Golem. I guess if you've opted not to put in maybe a Piloted Sky Golem or Sylvanas or a second Piloted Sky Golem, and the 2 6 drops he's gone with are Black Knight and Cairn, what do you think about the position of Cairn in this kind of mid-rangey deck right now?
Right now I'm just counting damage because Gaara might have lethal next turn. I think he actually has lethal with...
Oh yeah, that might well... Well, so he's going to trade the...
He's going to trade the Claw and Savager. It's actually 8 damage from Savager.
Oh
wow, wait a moment. This is 12? That's That's so close to lethal right now. One Savager is 6 if he has only 2 minions on board. If he plays the Druid of the Claw, that's 8 plus 6, that's 14. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be it, right? That's
It's
Not
not it,
quite.
but it's super close.
that is super close. And the second Savage Roar in hand actually means that if a taunt, well, Dart does have the lay on hands here. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see lay on hands this turn. It's not really any other option for Dart here, but the Druid is still up at 28 health, and that Tyrion as well. But there is a silence in hand. This game is so swingy. These guys are top decking cards which look really great, but there's just always answers.
Yeah, also that was actually pretty amazing. Gaara made a correct call, because even if Tyrion is being dropped, he wins with Keeper of the Grove. But then Lay on Hands was the single card that could stop him here. And with 11 health on Dart, Gaara needs to top deck Force of Nature, or maybe another Druid of the Claw. Karen is going to get killed here. But
Oh, rid of the
God, he
claw.
actually gets it.
So that's not quite. That's 8 damage in total, right?
Yes, but this is like a repeat of a previous turn. He gets him to 2, and now it's again a question: do you have a heal? Because if you don't, if you have Tyrion, you're dead.
Yep. Does
Or
have-
are you? He has actually at 3.
Okay, so he's got the Tyrion here, which can come down, but then there's a silence. But that takes... Oh, that takes the damage potential off board. If you top deck something like a swipe here... In fact, swipe, or... we've already
Second
seen one...
keeper.
Have we seen one keeper already?
I've seen so many keepers the last 2 games.
So how many... producer, how many cards has Gaara got in his deck here? What's the...
Force of Nature.
That's Wild Growth. Okay, so he's got one more chance to draw a swipe or Keeper of the Grove.
One Groove is not bad. It's like he still can top deck into lethal, and he is filtering his deck.
Let's have a look. Is it going to be... No, it's the Shade. And Gaara's pretty much top decking for his life here. He just needs to top deck that extra 1 damage and hope that no extra healing comes in from Dart.
Wow, this is such an intense finish, because whoever wins this game wins the match. And right now is really close to dying, but on the other hand, if Gaara is never going to top deck a card he needs, well, actually, he has the means to win, because he just silences Tyrion and wins with the Shade. And
Yes,
that's it.
so that's going to be lethal.
Yeah, Shade was actually a fantastic
Yeah.
top deck for Gaara.
Yeah, the stealth. I guess we were thinking about the direct damage, but actually with the keeper in hand, we were thinking of the damage from the keeper being really important to the lethal. But actually, this is going to be exact lethal with the Shade and the hero power. The silence coming in on the Tyrion is going to be crucial, and it's going to be Gaara reverse all killing with the Druid. We told you it could happen, and Gaara's going to go to the semi-finals 3-2. This board looks super scary for Dart, but he's just hoping against hope. Gaara doesn't have what he needs. But unfortunately, it is going to be it. And there's Wrath. That's completely academic at this point.
Wow, that was an amazing game, and this again proves the power of the Druid. We've seen double Savage